For the first time in his life, Conan approached a city surrounded by high stone walls. His eyes, accustomed to the open horizons of the nomadic lands, studied the towering fortifications with both curiosity and caution. On the walls above, sentries stood with long spears in hand. The gates were bound in iron, flanked by massive towers. This was not only defense, it was a display of power. In history, nomadic warriors often viewed cities with equal parts admiration and suspicion. When the Cimmerians came into Anatolia, they encountered the stone architecture of Phrygian and Lydian cities. To them, these structures were symbols of wealth and targets to be taken. As Conan passed through the gates, he heard the creak of iron hinges. Inside, the noise of the crowd, the calls of market vendors, the clatter of hooves and the smell of roasting meat rushed over him all at once. But his eyes stayed sharp. These walls might have looked protective from the outside, but he had yet to learn what dangers lay within. In the heart of the city lay the marketplace, hundreds of tents, bright-colored fabrics, shouting vendors. Gold, silver, silk, spices, and weapons stood side by side. Exotic scents filled the air, and the sounds of bargaining in languages he did not know echoed through the crowd. Conan moved through the chaos like a wolf searching for prey. The Cimmerians, too, knew the city markets well. They sold their plunder here, trading it for horses, weapons, or food. These bazaars were also centers of news and intelligence. Rumors of war, shifts in trade routes, and whispers of alliances changed hands faster than the goods themselves. Conan walked the market in silence, weighing both opportunities and dangers. In one corner, caravan masters sought to hire guards. In another, a shadowy figure dealt in weapons. Here, not only money could be bought, but power as well. In the heart of the square, a restless crowd had gathered, their eyes fixed on the two swordsmen facing each other. This was not the savage, chaotic struggle Conan had known in the wilds. This was a duel, bound by rules, steeped in honor, and meant to dazzle. Each fighter moved with deliberate grace, their blades flashing in the sun, every strike and feint crafted as much for the audience's admiration as for victory. For the Cimmerians, a fight was rarely anything but a battle to the death. But in the cities, combat could be art as much as survival. An exercise in skill, discipline, and spectacle. The gladiator schools of Rome, the rigorous hoplite training of Greece, all carried the same tradition of turning war into performance. Conan's lip curled at the theatricality, but his eyes missed nothing. Beneath the flourishes and the applause, there were movements, angles of attack, changes in stance that could be lethal in the right hands. In Hyboria, survival belonged not to those who clung to their own ways alone, but to those who could master the ways of others. Cities were guarded not only by stone walls, but by unseen ramparts, walls of intrigue. Conan quickly realized that here, war was not fought only in the open square with steel in hand. It was waged in the silent shadows of council chambers, at the wine-soaked tables of nobles, and in the whispered plots of narrow alleys. At times, a single sentence, an alliance, or a betrayal could kill faster than a blade. Throughout history, outsiders, like the Cimmerians, often became pawns in the politics of great cities. Wealthy merchants and power-hungry nobles used them as pieces in their games of dominance, guiding their actions with gold and promises. Many warriors found themselves caught in this game before they even realized they were playing. Conan learned the rules of this hidden war quickly. In the city, a sword must be as sharp as the tongue that wields it. One wrong word, one wrong ally could bury you in the ground faster than any enemy's strike. Conan's name in the city had begun to earn him both friends and enemies. His reputation was as much a shield as it was a target. One day in the marketplace, a simple disagreement, a dispute over a price, perhaps a glance taken the wrong way, suddenly ignited into a deadly duel. A city-trained swordsman tried to humiliate Conan before the crowd. But in Hyboria, pride can be as sharp as a blade and just as quick to kill. Throughout history, it was not uncommon for nomadic warriors to find themselves in conflict within city walls. The Cimmerians, too, found both work and enemies in the great cities. For them, every new place offered opportunity, but also danger. What happened that day burned itself into the memory of all who witnessed it. Conan shattered the swordsman's ornate but sluggish technique with raw, ruthless speed. Each strike chipped away at his opponent's pride, each blow driving him closer to death. When the duel was over, a heavy silence gripped the square. From that day on, anyone who considered challenging the Cimmerian thought twice. In his first weeks in the city, Conan learned a truth. Stone walls do not guarantee safety. Even the tallest battlements cannot truly protect you. Real security lies only in your own strength and in your wits. Cities offer opportunity, but every opportunity carries a hidden snare. Think on this. Thousands of years ago, the Cimmerians lived the same truth. They entered the gates of wealthy cities with awe in their eyes, but soon discovered that the games played inside were as ruthless as any war fought outside. Those who live in cities may not know how to wield a sword, but they can kill with words. A betrayal, a whisper, a decision made behind a table. These can strike faster than any blade. And you, yes, you watching. If you walked beyond those walls, whose side would you take? Would you be the hunter, like Conan, or the prey? After gaining his freedom, Conan wandered alone for a time. But in Hyboria, traveling alone for too long was an open invocation to death. Even the hardest warrior needs someone to guard his back. Conan learned this truth on a caravan road when he met Subutai. From that day on, he knew never to set out without a trusted companion at his side. In history, the Cimmerians rarely moved alone. Even warriors with no blood relation would become Anda, sworn brothers. This bond was more than friendship. It was a vow to save each other's lives in battle, even at the cost of one's own.
Cimmerian raiding bands could be formed from many different tribes, yet on the battlefield they fought as one spirit. The oath of sworn brotherhood was not just for the moment of battle, it held in every step of the struggle to survive. Think about it. If you lived in Hyboria, who would you trust to guard your back? Could you give your life without hesitation to someone who shared no blood with you? And let's go further. Does true brotherhood come from spilling blood together or from facing death at the very same moment? Perhaps the bond we call blood brothers today has its roots in that ancient oath of Anda. What do you think?
One of the most important allies in Conan's life was the warrior Valeria. Together they raided, shared spoils, and saved each other's lives more times than they could count. Valeria was one of the rare few who could find a place not only at Conan's side in battle, but also in his heart. Though Cimmerian women are seldom mentioned in historical records, archaeological findings suggest they too bore arms. Female warriors were trained to defend their tribes and take part in raids. For this reason, the figure of Valeria is not only a creation of Hyboria's imagination, but also an echo of Cimmerian women who may once have lived. Think about it. If you had someone you trusted with your life in both war and peace, could you bear the thought of losing them?
Conan learned over time to trust his companions in the ruthless lands of Hyboria. But here, trust was a gamble with a heavy price. Trusting the wrong person was not just a mistake, it was placing the noose around your own neck. Needing a friend to guard your back in battle was not a weakness, but a necessity for survival. Yet when that friend was the wrong person, your end would come not from the stroke of a sword, but from the cold blow of betrayal.
We see countless examples of this in history. In the 8th and 7th centuries BC, the Cimmerians emerged from north of the Black Sea and descended into Anatolia, achieving great success on the battlefield. Their iron weapons, swift cavalry, and sudden raid tactics made them one of the most feared warrior peoples of their time. Yet, this power was not always entirely in their own hands. In the lands they entered, they were often forced to form alliances with various city-states amid shifting political balances and conflicts of interest. The most famous of these alliances was with the Kingdom of Lydia.
At first, this agreement seemed beneficial to both sides. The Lydians made use of the Cimmerians' military strength, while the Cimmerians, in return, gained spoils and support. But there is one truth about alliances. When mutual interests end, so does friendship. The Lydians broke their ties with the Cimmerians and, when the moment was right, ambushed them. This betrayal was not just a military defeat for the Cimmerians, it was a turning point in their history. They lost some of their finest warriors, their morale collapsed, and from that day onward, their influence in the region steadily declined. A wrong alliance had cut them far deeper than any sword ever could.
Conan's life in Hyboria was no different. Time and again, he was forced to choose his allies. Some he selected by his own hand, others were placed in his path by fate. The right choices brought him victory, the wrong ones carried him to the edge of death. In Hyboria, trust was not a virtue on its own. Trusting the right person could save your life. Trusting the wrong one could kill you faster than the sharpest blade. So tell me, whose hands would you place your life in? Someone who stands beside you for gold, or someone who would fight for you to their last breath out of honor? Remember this, history teaches us one thing. The one beside you is not just your companion, they are your fate. And sometimes what saves you is not the sharpness of your sword, but the one who stands shoulder to shoulder with you.
Conan and his allies sealed their brotherhood not with words, but with blood. Those who went to war together knew if they betrayed one another, the gods themselves would curse them. The Cimmerians saw the bond of Onda in the same way. Brotherhood oaths were made by letting blood fall, and that bond endured until the grave. To break it was not only dishonor, it was a curse that would follow you into the afterlife. Would you take an oath that bound you for life, knowing that breaking it would cost you your very soul?
No alliance lasts forever. Conan learned this the hard way. Even comrades bound by blood can break. There was a time when he shared fire, bread, and battle with a man he called brother. But in the shadow of greed, even loyalty can rot. One night, lured by the glint of stolen gold, that man drove a blade into Conan's back. He survived, but something inside him changed. From that day on, Conan no longer gave his trust freely. He had learned that brotherhood, when weighed against gold, becomes cheap. Words, oaths, promises, they were only as strong as the man who spoke them. For Conan, that betrayal wasn't just a wound, it was a revelation. In Hyboria, loyalty was a currency more valuable than coin, but far easier to counterfeit. And so he walked forward, blade in hand, eyes always watching, knowing that danger didn't always ride in from the horizon. Sometimes it sat beside the fire with a smile.
Over time, Conan came to understand one thing. True strength did not lie in the sword alone, but in those who walked beside you. You can be an army on your own, but with the right allies, you become a legend. Friendships forged in blood endure longer than histories written in steel.
The Cimmerians knew this truth well. From the misty mountains of the north to the southern caravan roads, enemies were many, but true allies were rare. For a Cimmerian warrior who stood beside you mattered. It wasn't just about surviving the battle, it shaped the destiny of the entire tribe. History tells us, once the Cimmerians faced a mighty army advancing from the west. They were outnumbered, but by forging a temporary alliance with an old enemy, they shifted the balance. That tactical union not only won the war, it ensured the very survival of the Cimmerian people. For them, alliance was never about bargaining away honor. It was a path to survival, yes, but survival with dignity. A bond made with the wrong ally could lead a tribe to its grave, but the right alliance could keep a people alive for centuries. So, tell me, if you lived in Hyboria,
Would you try to write your legend alone, or would you stand beside those who would share your blood and your blade? Remember this: legends are not born in solitude. They rise with the echoes of victories shared. Conan's story is not merely a tale of a barbarian fighting to survive. It is the echo of a people who once stepped onto the stage of history, the Cimmerians. For those who can hear history's footsteps beneath the shadow of myth, this is only the beginning. In this episode, we explored Conan's origins, his path to freedom, his first encounter with cities, and the bonds he forged with true companions. With every step, we touched both legend and history. The line between reality and fiction grew thin, and every viewer found themselves wondering where they stood on either side of that line. But what comes next?